Welcome back to part 9 of our Game of the Decade series, in which we go through the 2010s year by year to find the best game of each one, before coming back to debate which of the 10 nominees is the true Game of the Decade. And this time it's 2018's turn. The 5 participating GameXplain members each have 3.5 minutes to make their case for what they believe the best game of that year is, and then they'll have to defend it for the same amount of time in the interrogation round. Once everyone's presented and defended their game, we'll all vote, and that includes you too, as we're counting our lovely fan base as a 6th GameXplain member. Just use the link in the description below to make your voice heard, and we'll announce the results at the beginning of the next year's video. And speaking of which, congratulations to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild for taking the crown as our nomination for 2017's Game of the Decade. And with that, let's get to our 2018 Game of the Decade arguments. Take it away, Ash.
Okay, so, my Game of the Year 2018 starts with a simple question for you all. Do you like video games? Because I love video games. I just love them. And if you love video games like I do, you've probably grown a certain attachment to some of these characters. You know, Mario, Sonic, Mega Man, Pac-Man, Cloud, Banjo-Kazooie. Pretend I could find a transparent image for Banjo-Kazooie. They're great, right? Well, but Ash, you say, these characters all come from different developers. Surely they could never exist together in one game? Well, you are wrong. Because my Game of the Year for 2018 is the video gamiest video game that ever video gamed in video game history. Not that I need proof, but if you'd like some, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, baby. You don't get more video gamey than this. Look at all this video game in this one image. It's crazy. Why Smash Bros. Ultimate? It is the ultimate celebration of video games. It is the best, most refined, well-balanced gameplay in the series. Melee, Fox, Falco, Sheik, Captain Falcon, or Peach? No. Brawl Meta Knight? Not welcome here. Smash 4 Bayonetta? Get wrecked! It's faster and more technical than Smash 4, but it's slower than Melee, and not predicated on exploits like Melee. It strikes the perfect balance. It's got 74 characters, depending on how you count them, 107 stages, or 321 if you count Battlefield and Omega variants, 955 music tracks, the largest, the hugest, most comprehensive soundtrack in video game history. And in case you weren't paying attention, that is almost 1,000 music tracks, alright? These arguments make themselves. And the train just keeps on going. We're still in the middle of DLC. Who knows what we'll end up at the end? Now, to take you on a journey of how just exactly we got here, I just want to show you guys. This is Smash 64. Look at that cute character select screen, stage select screen. So great, right? Then we got Melee. It's just getting bigger. Then we got Brawl. Even bigger. How do they do it? It's crazy. They could never get bigger than this, right? Smash 4. They did it again. Surely this is the end. They couldn't possibly get any crazier than this. We're wrong again. Look at that. Have you ever seen more video game in 2 images in your life? Look at that. Now, why Smash Ultimate? There are so many options, more than before. Is it a fighting game? Is it a party game? Wait for it, guys. It's both. It can be both. Smash Ultimate gives players more ways than ever to tailor their Smash experience to their personal tastes. You have a stage hazard toggle now. You have Battlefield and Omega versions of each stage. There are so many ways to play, and they meaningfully switch things up from prior games in the series. Smashdown, Squad Strike. I know Squad Strike for you, Andre, was a specific thing that you really wanted. And at this point, Sakurai is giving us stuff I didn't even know I wanted. Stage Morph. I always have Stage Morph on. Look at that stage morphing in the bottom right. It's great because there are 100 and whatever stages and you never see the same 2 ever. It's crazy. Now, single-player content has not always been the best in Smash, I admit. However, I feel that Ultimate trims the fat of Brawl's Subspace Emissary while jettisoning Smash 4's awful Special Orders and Master Orders. Smash 4 single-player sucked. So World of Light and the Spirit Board, not without criticism, but I think they're a fun alternative to the event matches from previous games.
30 seconds.
And you get the history of 1,000 characters across gaming history that are woven into this gameplay mode just, throughout. Now, World of Light's may be too long, too dense, but if you enjoyed it, take it at your own pace, like I did, I think it's impossible to deny that it gives you a ton of content, and collecting spirits is fun if you get into it, kind of like I did. Finally, hashtag Sora for Smash. I just wanted to get that in there. He is the biggest missing character, and just to drive home my point even more, look at all that video game. You can't argue against it. I rest my case.
And time.
Wow.
Well done. Well timed.
Thank you. Nice.
Okay, you ready for cross-examination?
I am ready. Let's do it.
Alright. How can the Game of the Year be a game that also has Daisy?
I mean...
Didn't you vote for Mario Kart 8?
Exactly. And that has Baby Daisy, which is even worse.
Didn't win, though.
It didn't win, that's true. But she is one of like 80 characters, so I think I can give that a pass. And there is no Waluigi, thankfully.
that's an argument.
That is a good thing.
Before the DLC, Ash, there's only around, I think, 4 or 5 brand new stages. Is that a knock against this game?
I personally don't think so, because the Melee stages especially have been remastered to a degree where they almost feel new. I mean, look at games like, or stages like Fountain of Dreams, Rainbow Ride. Like, they even though, like, Yoshi's Island from Melee, they all look so much better than they used to the point where I feel like they are new stages. Obviously they're not, but they feel new to me. And yeah, I wish we could have gotten more original stages, but I think Sakurai and his team's time was better focused on bringing back all these stages from the past. And don't forget, they had to remaster all the Smash 3DS ones too. So yes, on the surface it maybe looks like there's less new content, but if you count all the Smash 3DS stages and all the Melee stages that were remastered, I think the argument makes itself.
All right, Ash. Well, you talked about like how going through World of Light gives you this history of games, and granted, there's a lot of spirits out there that of characters throughout video game history. The problem is the history part. I don't know anything about them. Yeah, there's some cute nods to their games, but if I don't know their game already, I lose that history. And how do you defend the fact that there's just no history to them, like the trophies used to give us with each of those characters? Like I'm over the fact that we have no trophies, but I still miss that history.
Well, I defend that by admitting that Sakurai and his team are only human, and to come up with 1,300 plus descriptions for every single one of those spirits, I think would have been an impossible task. And I agree with you, though. I do wish we had the context for the space in gaming history that all these characters occupy. However, I will say that I have gone out of my way to look up characters that I hadn't heard of and see why their spirit battles are the way they are. And not only that, for someone who's as steeped into video game history as I am, and as we all are, I had so many chuckles and smiles and laughs at, like, the characters I did know, why they did the spirit battles the way they did. Like, they were so smart about it, and they're very creative. So, for me, it kept on giving, but I do understand that it would be nice to have more history for some of those characters.
Okay, Ash. You said they trimmed the fat from Brawl's Subspace Emissary, but you failed to define what the fat was, which was the story. That was the fat, it was the story. World of Light has nothing going on in a narrative sense beyond the intro and outro. How can you defend that against a single-player mode that offered a lot more at one point?
30
because
seconds.
Smash isn't really known for having it's not about having a story. It's about the biggest crossover fighting game in history, something we're never going to see again. And Brawl's story just amounted to, hey, there's this crazy evil god who's just, who's killing everybody and come together to beat them. Like, yes, the CG movies were really cool, but the actual gameplay of Subspace Emissary was awful to slog through, in my opinion. So I feel like that's the fat, and Ultimate trims that and makes it just purely about Smash.
But wouldn't the
time.
crossover be...
That's right, Steve. All right, good job, Ash.
Yeah. Well done.
Thank you.
Although you failed to mention Banjo at any point during that, so that's going to be an automatic point.
No, in my one slide.
Oh, you did? Okay, all right.
But you didn't bother to get a properly transparent image.
That's true.
Exactly. I said
Disrespect.
pretend it's transparent.
All right, are you ready to go, Derek?
I am. Let's do it.
All right, take it away.
All right. Game of the Year 2018, because at this point, how can you not trust me? I've always put forth the right decision.
So sleazy.
It's so sleazy. I am not a politician. I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, Dragon Quest XI. That is the game you should be playing. It is one of the best RPGs of all time, and is sure to be a classic, just renowned throughout RPG history in the years to come. This is going to be breathed in the same vein as Final Fantasy VI, Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VII. You take your RPG pick, it is up there and perhaps even better than them in some way. So again, this is one of the best RPGs of all time. It is a classic JRPG style with new elements introduced that make it feel modern. This is, if you want your classic turn-based RPGs, if you were upset that that's gone from the Final Fantasy VII Remake until they announced that other mode, then hey, here you go. Classic JRPG stakes. And it is a true epic that takes the story to places that you least expect. You really don't know where it's going to go a lot of the times. And it has a marriage of gameplay and plot that seamlessly enhances both. There are character moments that really affect them, and it'll expand their available skills or shrink them. Like a character loses their memory at one point, and all their skills are gone because they've lost their memory. It's a really cool, subtle way that they enhance that. Plus, it loves to play with expectations. If you know JRPGs, you know the tropes by now. However, there's, you have the chosen one, the evil lord, the merry band of adventurers, and the kings that help you move forward. Yeah, that's not here. It's kind of there. While the elements are there, the way they're played with make each development shocking and investing each and every time. Plus, every party member is well developed and useful in battle. You know how you have those excess party members that really aren't that useful? You're just like, okay, that's a cool personality, but I don't really want to use them in the party. Yeah, that's not the case here. Every one of these guys, perfect and great to use in battle. Plus, they can be swapped out on the fly, or they can even switch weapons to use tactics best suited to the situation. You don't have a boomerang equipped? Well, if you have a boomerang in your inventory, you can equip it and start using it and use those abilities for that situation. So it ends up being that not a single party member feels extraneous to the entire experience. Plus, it has monsters that are just filled with character. There are over 600 monsters in the game, all with their own unique animations and characterization. And while some start off cute, the later monsters can absolutely be a challenge. You can get your butt kicked in this game. And if you love puns, the names are just too good. Look at this guy. That's a cute pig. What's his name? He's a sham hat witch. What's this guy?
30 seconds.
Hey, look at that cosplay. That's a nice little fursuit. What's his name? His name is Otter Shambles. These are great names, and that's just a few of the examples. This is great stuff. And it's easy to pick up and play. While some may say that the opening is slow, I actually like the idea that it's setting the stage. It introduces the characters, the world, the combat before dropping the initial twist, and from there everything builds to a culmination that really, literally left my jaw dropped. It was shocking to me.
And time.
All right, good job, Derek. Even if you didn't get through your whole presentation.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fitting for a lengthy
happens.
RPG.
There's too much to talk about. I have a huge game to talk about. In
that fits. Time. That's thematically appropriate, like Steve's presentation, right? So.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's true. It's like post game, I have to do an extra thing.
All right, are you ready for interrogation time?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get to it. And I guess, Derek, I actually just so happened to start playing this game a few nights ago. Why is the jump so goofy?
Because it's the first time I think the jump has ever been in the game, so they're still learning the animation, I'd assume. It does look a little goofy, but what are you going to do? It's. I don't think it takes it. Well, I don't think it takes me out of the game. Like, there's a bunch of goofy jumps in other RPGs, and hey, at least you can jump. That makes the exploration a little more interesting, and the fact that you have to do some light platforming or traveling in order to actually see everything. It peps up the exploration, even if it looks goofy.
Is there an animal companion?
Not really, I guess. I mean, you don't have...
Step down from 8.
I mean... To be fair, you can dress Veronica there, the little girl, in different animal outfits, so technically she fills that role.
Alright, Derek, so as you well know, I love this game. However, I've been playing the Switch version, which goes a long way toward fixing the original version's absolutely horrid soundtrack. The synthesizers are terrible. How did you get through this entire game with this horrendously bad soundtrack, especially when JRPGs are perhaps the best genre, or the genre most well known for having standout soundtracks?
Unfortunately, that's the one major knock against this game. The soundtrack is just hindered by its composer and the way that they act. The compositions themselves are good, though, as we can see from 11S. It's just the fact that they didn't use the proper instrumentation to really bring them out and make them feel as epic as they should. Yes, it's not as good, but, we don't really do remakes, and so and I'm not sure if 11S changes enough to make it warrant its own nomination, so I went for the original, and guess what? There is a better version out there, but, that's just the way it is. It's a weakness that you deal with.
Even in the context of 11S, though, how many town themes are there?
A few.
That's a really kind way of putting it.
I mean, here's the thing. The thing that you got to understand about Dragon Quest, it is a very traditional series. They rarely upend the cart, and this game is a major shift for them in how they really played with ideas. it's a huge step forward for the Dragon Quest series, and the Dragon Quest series does not move forward that quickly. It is traditional to a fault, and unfortunately the music can sometimes lag in that regard.
Derek, I've got 2 kids, and so I'm a little busy, and when I look at Dragon Quest 11, I immediately get intimidated and just scared of trying to put 80 hours into anything. How do you sell this game to someone like me who doesn't have a lot of time?
It's actually pretty episodic. Dragon Quest games tend to be a little episodic in the first place, and with how each town is sort of its own story. And Dragon Quest XI keeps that, but the overall story is still there and keeps you moving forward in a way that a lot of past Dragon Quest games maybe don't. But you can actually go to each town and just focus on that town one at a time, take your time through the game, and still get just as much enjoyment out of it, seeing what each new town has to offer.
And time.
And it's pretty good to play in chunks.
All right. Good job, Derek.
Very well done.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
Okay. Are you guys ready for my presentation?
No.
I don't think we ever can be.
Excellent.
God.
That is scary.
Why are you the way you are, Andre?
Would you really want it any other way, Steve?
No.
All right. Game of the Decade 2018. A virtual reality that Andre's right. Do you see this clickbait right here? Do you see this absolute clickbait from a channel you might recognize asking if Half-Life Alyx is VR Super Mario 64 moment? Can you believe the nerve of this when the answer when we've already had when VR's already had the Mario 64 moment being Astrobot? That's right. Astrobot is my game of the year. So pay attention to this real quick. Here's a little visual aid here. Then you start it off the right time. Yeah, listen to that sick beat. I'm gonna keep going.
Is this just your entire argument? Just
okay, I think that's enough.
watch this trailer.
Pop quiz, Derek! What did you just see? Alright, it's a trick question. There's no single answer. You saw an adorable hero, colorful visuals, and amazingly catchy music, a double jump that Mario Sunshine could only dream of, unique perspectives, and yes, a giant robot scratching its butt. Which is to say, this game has personality in spades. Here's what you couldn't see, though. A world that envelops you. Incredible immersion, and a deep connection to Astrobot himself. Why is this? Because it's all enabled by VR. And this gets back to the whole Mario 64 thing, because, like in Mario 64, they personify the camera. Except, they take it a step farther than the Mario 64. You are the camera. That's right, you control a giant robot that accompanies Astro Boy or Astrobot on his adventure, and this means you have presence in this world where you can actually interact with things yourself by using your head. Whether it's dodging enemy attacks, bashing in these different barriers in the way, and beyond this, your hands get into the action too, with the controller actually interacting with the environment. There's a whole stage dedicated to basically a Nintendo Land game where shooting ninja stars out of your controller. You can also create platforms for Astrobot by propelling them into the environment. It's just brilliant, brilliant stuff that makes it feel connected, to the point that Astrobot even waves at you every time you so much as look at him. It's adorable! Look at this guy! This game is pure Nintendo magic. In fact, had Nintendo made the VR, if Nintendo actually embraced VR properly, I feel like they would make a game that looks similar to this, but I feel like they might even be selling a short. I think Sony did something here that even Nintendo wouldn't have done, just in a general sense. They just offered their own take on what a Nintendo game could be in VR, and they also offered some of the best boss fights I've seen in a platformer, and especially a VR game. That's just enhanced by the VR presentation and them just towering over you. It's truly great stuff. So in conclusion, John, once again, we've already had the Mario 64 moment in VR, and that is, of course, Astrobot. How can you say no to this little guy? I rest my case.
You gave that thumbnail the okay.
Throwing you under the bus.
Alright, I will now accept questions.
Do you have I mean, I gotta say, that's impressive, hi, I'm John embroidery.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's a good impression.
Yeah. All right, Andre, can I ask you a question? How much is VR? Like a VR set?
Oh, it's
for the
expensive.
PS4?
Yeah, it's not cheap.
Yeah, are you telling me it's worth spending that much extra money just to play this one game?
Can you really put a price on happiness, Derek? On true quality?
Yes, when I only have so much money.
I mean, well, that's just an unfortunate side of our society, I suppose. So I pity you for not being able to play Astrobot.
Andre, do you own a PSVR?
I don't.
Second question. I played
Nice.
Astrobot on not your PSVR at your house, and at the time I told you that I didn't think it was really a Mario 64 moment because it doesn't really have that technology-defining quality, I feel. What is it about Astrobot that makes you feel that it's equivalent to what many agree is one of the greatest games of all time?
It's less that it represents like a paradigm shift in gaming as Mario 64 did. I don't think we'll ever have that again. It's more that it's pretty much essentially Mario 64 in VR. Like, this is basically like if you took 3D World and threw a camera and moved the camera behind Mario himself and added on the layer of VR and actual like interaction, that's pretty much Astrobot. That's kind of the essence of it, I feel like. So what Astrobot does is it just nails the mechanics of making a type of game, being a platformer in this case, a 3D platformer, work within the confines of a new medium, being VR. So I think it just hits on. I think it just really just nails the approach.
So it's more 3D world. It's VR's 3D world moment.
I would not put it that way.
I wonder why.
All right, Andre. Would you rank WALL-E as one of your favorite Pixar movies ever?
No.
Interesting, because when I see Astrobot, I just see Eve. Like, they wanted to make a WALL-E game but couldn't get the license, and really it just looks like Eve. And how do you defend such a relative lack of originality in this main character that you control for however many hours?
That's like saying that Sega couldn't get the rights to Mario, so they ended up making a Trash Mouse version.
What? That's not the same thing.
I mean, I don't see it at all. Like, it's a little robot. Like, how... I guess there's similarities because they're robots. I don't know what more you want from me.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Alright, you mentioned the game has a double jump. Is that because the regular jump is terrible?
It's because there is a lot of platforming in this game, and it'd be very frustrating if you fell constantly, I think, without like, by restarting a checkpoint or whatever. So, I mean, it's no more, it's a double jump. It's a failure of the jump mechanics in the same sense that the spin in Mario Galaxy is a failure in that game. Or the roll jump in Tropical Freeze is a, barrier to its platforming.
30 seconds.
What's the story on this? Because I honestly don't know a lot about Astrobot, which is throwing me off.
Oh, the story? I don't even know. You're like looking for the whole extra like robot dudes. I have no freaking clue.
So so it gets you invested just through the characterization.
Yeah, I mean, it's a platformer, right? I mean, the platformers aren't really generally known for their stories. It's just an adorable adventure in which you go through world by world, attacking enemies and collecting your friends.
Is there space in
time.
this game?
Yes. I actually used to have a slide just for it, but...
All right, well done, Andre.
Thank you.
Yes, well done.
All right, Steve, you are up.
Okay, time for my 2018 Game of the Year. Thank God this is almost over. My pick for 2018 is Spider-Man.
Ooh.
Because why wouldn't it be?
It could be God of War.
Now, I get the impression that probably none, or hopefully, only some of you played this. So I'm going to be very illustrative in this presentation. I'm going to bring you some pictures of Spider-Man. Just look at this game. How freaking cool is this? First off, we get a superhero game that finally isn't all just black, gray, or brown. Sorry, Batman, but you're boring to look at. And Spidey is just so full of character. I mean, you can do these fun selfies anywhere in the world. The swinging is fantastic. I'll have more on that later. Just every single piece of this game is gorgeous. I mean, just look how happy JJ is to see him. Now, I want you all to listen to this very closely, because Spider-Man has, and I am not even being the slightest bit hyperbolic when I say this, the greatest sound design of any game ever made. And I'm going to play you a short clip that I took off of Kirk Hamilton's Twitter to kind of illustrate what I mean by that. So...
Oh, it's MJ. Hey, MJ. You're up late.
Just catching up on the news. Looks like you had quite an adventure with Shocker tonight.
Yeah, he was unusually combative. Anyway, thanks again for dinner. What do I owe you?
All right. Hopefully you guys were able to hear that well, and the tenor of Spider-Man's voice came through. You notice that when he's swinging, he sounds like he's physically exerting himself, and the minute he lands, the conversation naturally kind of changes, and he sounds more at rest, at ease, like his voice is very normal. And what the madmen at Insomniac did was they had Yuri Lowenthal, who did an amazing job with Spider-Man. They had him record every piece of dialogue twice. So they had him record it in a state of exertion and at a resting state, so that depending on what Spider-Man is doing while having these conversations, his voice freaking changes in accordance with what's happening. I mean, that's just an insane level of detail that I don't think I've seen in any other game ever. So I'm just mind blown by that one little thing, and it's something that almost nobody notices. Also, look at these GIFs. Swinging is such an amazing thing to do in this game, like particularly the one in the lower left, thanks Game Informer, happens to show, just kind of captures the feeling of moving through the city. All of these are in-game screenshots, by the way. This is what it's like to traverse through New York as Spider-Man. It's just movement in this game is hands down the best I've ever had in a video game, and I'm moving on. Spider-Man suits. There's 42 freaking outfits in this game. So if you want to be Spider-Man 2099, awesome. If you want to be Spidey from the comics, complete with a comic shader, that's great. If you want to wear the Fantastic Four suit with a bag on your head, that's in there too. And each of these has a unique power that affects gameplay. I ran out of time. So, Spider-Man incentivizes you to collect everything in its world by making each collectible have value.
And time.
Read the rest.
All right.
Well done,
Good job,
Steve.
Unfortunately for you,
Nice.
I can't read, but
Well, Andre, that's public school's fault, not your own.
I feel you, Steve. I didn't get to finish either.
all right.
I'm just going to leave this on screen.
You ready to be grilled?
I am.
All right. Who wants to kick things off this time?
So, Steve, I know it incentivizes you to collect everything, and I did do that. I made sure to do everything, but I also felt like that bogged down the pacing. Like, I saw it, I went for it, and I just felt like it just killed the pacing of the story, and found myself getting a little bogged down at points. Did you feel the same way, or did you skip the thing that you says it incentivizes to collect?
So, I actually treated the collection as kind of a post-game activity. I went through, and initially, like you, Derek, I was, oh, hey, there's a backpack, and I would go get it, and then I would read the little thing on the card, and then I'd realize that, you know, if you're a superhero swinging over to deal with a real problem, you're probably not going to be like, that backpack looks sweet. So I ended up circling back for those, and it gave me a good reason to kind of explore New York more once I didn't have the urgency of, you know, like a world-ending event happening. And so for me, it kind of served as a nice post-game activity.
To piggyback off that, Steve, like some of the side activities, like the backpacks are great, but a lot of the other side activities are incredibly repetitive, and they're not at all that interesting. Like the gang warfare and the thugs you have to go and beat up, and the construction warehouses where they're all headquartered. Like, how do you defend that? Because so much of the side content is so repetitive. As much as I do love the rest of the game.
So those were some of my favorite tasks. Like if you said chasing the pigeons, I would have been right there with you. But
That too.
The gang warehouses I thought were a lot of fun because the combat is just so fluid, and I'll take any excuse for Spider-Man to beat someone up for me. I think it was awesome to use that. I'd say it is my favorite combat system in any game of this type. It feels like they took what the Arkham series started and just improved upon it. Because I always felt like that action would have been better suited to a character like Spider-Man, who's naturally super agile.
How varied do you think the missions are?
Mission variety. So there is a point where it starts to feel like you're doing the same thing all the time, and as one of my bullet points I didn't get to say shows, they do a good job of breaking it up by throwing in like Mary Jane or Miles Morales missions, which are much more stealth focused, to kind of give you a break from the typical Spidey workflow, as it were. So I think they recognize that you know, there's only so much you can do as Spider-Man, and they needed something to kind of pad that out and give you a change of pace. And I think they did a good job by using Mary Jane and Miles kind of sparingly throughout the story to give you those breaks when you need it.
Did you enjoy playing as Mary Jane, though?
I actually did. There were a couple missions where I got caught, like, really often, and I'd get frustrated, but I just had to remind myself that I'm no longer cool, and I have to slow down, because I can't just beat people up that find me. So I did enjoy it, actually.
So I only played a little bit of this game, but how's it hold up in a post-Breath of the Wild world? I still felt like I was following icons a lot of the time during my playtime. Is that indicative of the rest of the experience, and why is that a good thing?
I feel like Breath of the Wild works because Link has inherent limitations to his abilities, whereas Spider-Man works as well as it does because you're a superhero and you don't have those limitations. You can, you know, if Spider-Man sees a mountain, he's going to do some crazy web stuff to get up
All
it.
right. Good job, Steve.
Nice. Well done. Thank you.
Nicely done.
All right. John, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay.
So my 2018 Game of the Year. I think video games are the most interactive medium of them all. It gives us the ability to visit new worlds, gain new perspectives, and see through the eyes of someone else. So why is it that every video game character is this guy? Why are we always playing as this guy in every single game? Well, my pick for the 2018 Game of the Year doesn't have that. My pick is Celeste. Celeste helps you understand what it's like to be someone else. It's both visually and a gameplay representation of having anxiety, which is something that games very rarely tackle. The only other example I can think of in recent memory is Hellblade, with what it's like to have a
Panic attack?
Oh no, I'm blanking.
30 seconds.
Oh, like mental, like focusing on mental illness,
Yeah, that's it.
like focusing on mental health. Yeah.
That's it. Alright, the game's still full of charm though. It doesn't try and drag down any of the gameplay with its messages. And also, it's about simplicity as well. Like, look at this. This may seem like something that's really daunting and tricky to handle, but you only have 3 abilities. The core mechanics are jumping, dashing, and climbing. So no matter how difficult it gets, no matter how many supplement elements there are, you're always relying on those 3 mechanics. And it is hard. There's no downtime though between deaths. When you die, you immediately come back. There is no, you're never like hanging around waiting to respawn. So you never really get frustrated because of that. You can just jump straight back in. And every room is like a bite-sized chunk. Like what you're seeing here is the entirety of the platforming challenge. So you can always anticipate what's coming up. And it feels like once you can conquer something that's really tricky, you can kind of like, you feel good about the next thing that's coming up as well. And yeah, it's hard, but it's fair. But the real challenge is what comes for those who want it. And like, look at this nonsense here. This is the seaside of, I believe, World 8. And I have not finished I haven't finished all the seaside levels, and I'm okay with that. Because I felt satisfied just finishing the A story and some of the B ones. There's a satisfying ending, but if you want to keep going, you can, and you'll get some crazy stuff like this. But, of course, it doesn't have to be hard. Wolfenstein kind of puts you off if you want to go for the easier ones by calling you a baby. But this game has accessibility, and it lets you play easier and doesn't try and decentivize that. And you can enjoy it at your own pace. If you want to, you can make the game slower. You can have invincibility, you can have infinite dashes. It doesn't matter. If that's how you want to play, if that's how you're having fun, that's absolutely fine. And I think the best thing that Celeste does is it builds you up, it puts you down and then builds you back up. Madeline goes through a lot over the course of the story, but there are so many powerful moments that make you feel so good after having those downfalls. And there's no clutter. Look at this screenshot here. There's no indicators or health bars or anything. So once you've dashed, Madeline's hair goes blue. There's no like little meter at the top of the screen telling you when you can dash. There's no health bar. There's no lives, and I think that goes a long way to sort of getting you into the vibe of the game. And one thing I love is the prototype is actually a secret in this game. So Celeste Classic was made in 4 days for a game jam and inspired the creation of Celeste. And I think it's just so cool to have that piece of gaming history within the game. Because the game industry is always so secretive, so it's great to have that kind of stuff in here. And of course, if you don't vote Celeste, I'm going to banish you to a mountain. So please vote for Celeste as 2018 Game of the Year.
Alright, good job, John.
Nice.
Well done.
Are you ready to be grilled?
Yeah.
So, John, 3 of the games you've nominated, Celeste, Dark Souls, Bloodborne. You seem to like hard games with fewer than 5 mechanics to them. Are you just a simple idiot?
Yeah.
He does wear a Hi, I'm
try and
John
hide
shirt.
No, the reason I like those kind of games is I feel like they are not hard for the sake of being hard. The simple mechanics are very easy to grasp, and everything the game throws you can be overcome with experience and with just acknowledging what's going on with the level design. So, and Celeste, I wouldn't say that Celeste is unfair in any way. Like, the game doesn't get hard until later on, and it doesn't get really hard until the post game. So yeah, it's definitely challenging, but it's not unfairly challenging though.
Okay, John, you made a good argument. I can't deny that. But there's one word you didn't use, I think, in your presentation. That was pace. And that's because, or I mean, rather, I think this game has a few pacing issues, specifically with the hotel segment, to my recollection. What do you think about that? Do you think this game has good pace?
I actually really like the hotel section. I felt like it was a great flow. The entire level was like an extension of the hotel owner's own anxiety. And I felt like that took you to some really great places, and you're sort of helping him out and, I guess becoming to know him before finally overcoming his problem. So I personally didn't feel there was much of a pacing problem.
Fine.
All right, John. This is kind of a shade of that question, so you may think the same thing, but I do feel like some areas in Celeste, I love the game to death, but some areas in Celeste go on too long. Not necessarily talking about the hotel, but that mirror temple is a really good example, in my opinion. It feels like they just go on too long and get a little draggy. Would you agree?
Is that because you died a lot, Ash?
No, it's just because I kept going. I kept going, and it's just I felt like a little too long in the tooth some areas to me.
I can understand that. I feel like it's a great game to pick up and play, which is why the Switch is a great platform for it. And when I was playing Celeste, I would, I guess, overcome a few screens at a time, especially near the end of the game where it gets really hard. So I would do a few of the hard levels, put the Switch on standby, and come back to it. And I think that's a really good way to tackle this. It doesn't have to be done all in one bulk.
Alright, John, so there is a collectible in this game in the form of strawberries, but they really don't get you anything. And I know that's kind of by design. It's just like, hey, here's an extra challenge you can give yourself. However, do you think they should have given you a reward for those strawberries? To
give you a better pie! The more strawberries you get, the more full of a pie you get at the end. No, I think the reward of the game, the reward of the game is the B-side and C-side levels, and they are definitely something that people who have mastered the game will want to have a little go at, because they are so tricky, and they really do test your skill. And I don't feel like there's much more you can do than that. I think that's just a great way around giving players more of a great game.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm having trouble thinking of bad things.
It's the clear game of the year.
John, is Madeline in Smash?
She's not, but she should be.
Fair enough. I like that answer. I can agree with that.
All right. Well,
I
that's it.
All right.
Yeah.
It's such a trimmed down game that it's hard to like pick at its faults.
Yeah, no, it's not like what it does. It doesn't do a whole lot, but what it does very well. Yeah, we're not putting it in though, right?
No.
Good job, John. Good job.
Nice.
Well done, John.
And that's the end of our 2018 Game of the Decade debate. So we're off to go vote. And you should go vote too using the link in the description below. Remember, your votes count as if you are a 6th Game Explain member. So make sure to check back tomorrow to see who won 2018. Along with our 2019 Game of the Year discussion. It should be pretty fun. Hey, if you click that subscribe button and ring the bell, you'll be notified as soon as the video's up. And with that, we'll see you tomorrow.